6-0, the motion is carried.
Thank you. The minutes from October 7th, was there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, I need a mover and seconder for the minutes, please.
I'll move it. Sally.
Moved by Martin, seconded.
Okay, Jones.
Second by Jones, all in favor?
Counselor Jones.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Michaela Lentz.
Yes.
Ray Price.
Yes.
Rob Brom.
Yeah.
Kim Smale.
Yes.
Warden Mennel.
Yes.
Seven zero, the motion is carried.
Thank you. Next, we have election of a chair. Anyone wish to put their name forward, I would entertain that at this time.
I would nominate Grant Jones to be chair.
Okay, nomination for Jones. Any other nominations? Any other nominations? One last time. Any other nominations? Grant, will you let your name stand?
I will.
Okay. Do we need election for that, Catherine, or just that's an acclamation?
I think we should vote to acclaim.
We have a Grant Jones has put his name forward for the chair. We need a vote to confirm that Grant Jones will be chair of the Environmental Committee for 2020. The vote, Catherine?
Counselor Jones.
Yes. I'd say no.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Michaela Lentz.
Yes.
Ray Price.
Yes.
Rob Brom.
Yes.
Kim Smale.
Yes.
Warden Mennel.
Yes.
7-0, the motion is carried.
Thank you. Okay, Grant, we'll let you take over the chair and carry on with the agenda.
Thank you, Warden Manel. Well, thank you for the support. It's going to be an exciting first year, I believe, for this committee, just getting feet to the pavement and seeing where we go. Our next item on the agenda is the facilitation of discussion for the action plan for this committee. And we have Jennifer Kirkham here.
Grant, before you go too far, I think we need to have a vice chair.
Oh, I am sorry. You're right. So I'm going to ask for nominations for the vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Sally Martin.
I'll nominate Kim Smale. Any further nominations? Last call for nominations. Well, the nominees stand. Sally?
I'm willing to stand or I'm willing to let Kim do it. It doesn't matter to me.
Tim, do you stand?
That's the same for me. Shelley wants to be vice chair. Let her go ahead.
We've worked too long together, Kim.
So I hear two people waffling, so.
Let Kim go ahead.
So, Sally,
I'll just withdraw and let Kim be vice chair.
Okay, so Kim, do you stand for sure?
Yep, that's fine.
Thank you.
So you need a vote for an acclamation?
Counselor Jones.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Michaela Lentz.
Yes.
Ray Price,
Yes.
Rob Grom,
I think it's yes.
Yes.
Oops, please.
okay, Kim Smale,
Undecided. Oh, I better say yes.
Warden Mennel.
Yes.
7-0, the motion is carried.
Thank you. Welcome, Kim. Okay, now we'll go on to item 6, our developing of an action plan. So we have Jennifer Kirkham here. She's going to facilitate the discussion. Welcome, Jennifer. The floor is yours.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Catherine, are you running the slide deck? Is someone running the slide deck?
Megan is running it.
Please. So this morning, because I think this is your second meeting, so at your first meeting you had a bit of an orientation to the committee. It's a brand new advisory committee. So we thought what we would do this morning is take some time to get you situated back into your, you sort of link into the county's overall plan. And then we're going to develop some objectives. So what are those things that you want to achieve over the course of your term as an advisory committee or work towards achieving? And then we're going to do some idea generation. So what are some potential actions that you can take in terms of meeting your goals and objectives? So that's sort of where we're headed over the next little bit. Now, I'm assuming if we go to the next slide, does someone from the county want to cover some of the I'm looking at Julie, maybe. To the slide, previous slide. Thank you.
I can cover it if you'd like.
Go ahead.
This is just a little bit of a reminder. We did go over some of this at our last meeting, but the Environmental Committee is part of the Growing Elgin Priority in this 2020 to 2022 strategic plan, which is to be the place where people want to live, work, and play. And the objective under that is to foster a healthy environment. So as part of that, the Environmental Committee was formed, and our action will be to develop an annual plan that identifies ways that the committee can reduce the county's environmental footprint. So we'll be discussing, oh, thank you, Megan. So we did go over the terms of reference at our orientation meeting, so we'll touch on those. But the job of this committee is an advisory capacity to provide input and comments on policies and procedures and regulations of the county, including any issues that impact the environment in our county. The committee may recommend and advise council on different policies to be developed and suggestions for the formulation of environmental policies and comment on policies prepared by staff. They will review studies, proposals, and other documents that are referred to the committee by council or staff and provide advice regarding these reports. And additionally, they will assist council and staff in identifying research needs and environmental data gaps and formulating a strategy for council's consideration. And so the committee is an advisory resource that primarily council regarding sustainability, waste reduction, recycling programs, water and energy conservation measures, and climate change. They will investigate other aspects of environmental concern that are suggested by county council and other or rise administration, and they will initiate and submissions or delegations regarding environmental concerns and report with recommendations to the Rural Initiative Planning Advisory Committee or County Council as appropriate. All right, I think I can turn it back over to Jennifer now. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Catherine. So we're gonna move into talking about, so Catherine covered your role, which is part of your terms of reference and sort of how you fit with the overall county strategic plan. So if we move to the next slide, it's going to show sort of your area of influence. So one of the key things, especially as we start to think about potential actions that you may want to take as a committee, it's good to know your scope or your area of influence. So because Elgin, the County of Elgin is an upper tier municipality, lower tier municipalities have influence in some areas and the county has influence in other areas when it comes to the environment. So being clear on what your areas of influence are as a county advisory committee, we want to make sure we put those into your head before we start moving into potential actions that you may want to take. So when you think about your areas of influence, you want to think about the county's role. So it would be any of the county operations, so the programs and services that they provide. So think about things like the road system in the county, the long-term care homes are under the influence of the county, the library, the county library system, the county administration. So think about the operations, so things that are provided by the county level versus those lower tier municipalities. Another area of influence would be any of the county-owned facilities, so any of their buildings, any of the grounds that surround the buildings or facilities as well would be an area of influence for you as an advisory committee. And then in terms of potential roles around that, their influence in terms of advocating. So advocacy, whether it be to other levels of government. I'm just going to ask, can people mute themselves? Just we're getting a bit of feedback from, I think it's paper shuffling. Great, thank you. So advocacy, whether it be to other levels of government, whether it be to organizations. So that's a potential area of influence for you. Promotion and awareness would be another potential area of influence. And then as Catherine talked about in your terms of reference, providing advice to council in terms of making recommendations or advice or input to them would be another area of influence. So keep those in mind as we move into thinking about potential ideas and actions. I know I've asked county staff to keep me focused on those. So if some of your ideas move beyond those boundaries, they may jump in and provide some advice or support to me around that. So let's go to the next slide. Maybe we'll go to the next slide. There we go. So what we want to do, knowing sort of what your role is, knowing your areas of influence, we want to talk about what your objectives are. So these would be higher level things. Thinking about your term as an advisory committee, what do you want to achieve? What will be different because of the work that you do? So to give you an example of the level I'm looking for, we're not looking for concrete actions, but looking for a higher level of objective. So an example of an objective could be to increase Elgin County residents' awareness about blah, blah, blah. So it's a high level objective. And then our next step will be to look at the objectives and talk about potential actions that you can take to actually achieve it. So really we're talking more about goals and objectives right now in terms of what you're hoping will be different. So you're sitting on this advisory committee around the environment. Why are you doing it? What are you hoping to achieve? What are you hoping will be different because of the work that you do? Who's got some ideas around that? What are your objectives as a committee? So feel free to unmute yourselves. Maybe can you take the screen down so we can see everybody for this one? There we go. All right. Now I can see you all. So let's talk about it. What are your objectives? What are you hoping will be different because of this environmental advisory committee? What are you hoping to do? Let's hear some ideas. Why are you sitting on the committee?
I'll go first, break the ice, Jennifer.
Thank you.
I'm hoping that when we come out of this, we reverse some of the impacts on the environment that we're creating right now, like landfill, that sort of thing. And hopefully we have some good ideas around the table to help with that.
Great. So this could be an example of an objective to reverse impacts on the environment or decrease impacts on the environment. That's an objective. Yeah. Other ideas?
To make us a sustainable, to work in a sustainable way that is not going to, cause problems in the future. So I think it's going green and sustainable.
So when you say to work in a sustainable way, Sally, are you talking about the county as an organization?
Yes, I am.
The county. So it'd be something like County of Elgin to work in a sustainable way. Other ideas? Why? Why an environmental advisory committee? What are you hoping will be different because of the work that you do?
I think it would be great if we could raise awareness, especially with the younger generation, that environmentalism doesn't just mean to recycle and whatever, but that it also means to not in the first place throw your garbage just on the road because you are too lazy to go to the 50 feet trash can which is there. And I'm saying this because I was a few times, so I live in Dutton, but I was a few times at the beach in Port Stanley this summer, and there's just trash lying around everywhere, right? And I only see people my generation and older pick stuff up which they didn't throw away. But
Right.
so, and I think this would help and wouldn't cost any extra money, right? And it would bring the community together again.
Yeah. So Michaela's saying to raise awareness about environmentalism. Would that be?
So really about the things you can do yourself. Just don't just push it on some high level. Oh, we want now to change the world. Just change your habits. Don't throw garbage on the road just because you don't have anything on you now where you could put it in. Just carry it a little bit further, right?
Yeah, and it certainly was, Jennifer, when Michaela mentions the beach in Port Stanley, our staff said it was, we used to get that on weekends. This year we had it every single day with just, and there are hundreds of garbage cans on the beach and people and recycling bins, and people were just throwing them, dropping whatever they wanted, where they wanted. And so I really do think Michaela's right. We really need to teach individuals to act responsibly.
Yeah, so what about something like to raise awareness about environmentalism and actions you can take as an individual? Do you take your, because you're talking.
I would say concrete actions, because the kids of today, they think always if they say, oh, I'm against global warming, then the job is done, right? And I think that we have to change again, otherwise nothing will change.
Yeah, so taking it from that level of climate change, which is hard for people to understand, down to the concrete actions you can take.
Right.
Yeah. Other ideas, objectives, things you want to achieve as an advisor? So let me read you what I've got so far. Maybe Catherine or whoever's showing the screen, can you type them up in a document so we can put them on the screen in a minute? So one is to decrease impacts on the environment, to have the County of Elgin work in a sustainable and green way, and to raise awareness about environmentalism you can take as an individual. What else do you want to achieve as a committee?
I think be a leader in the environmental actions for the area. That we can lead by example. I think that's very important.
Yeah. So to be a leader in environmental actions for the area, I put ... to lead by example. Does that do?
Yes. Yes, Sarah.
Just identifying sort of higher level objectives of things that you want to achieve as an environmental advisory committee. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 so far. So we've got to reverse or to decrease impacts on the environment. To work in a sustainable and green way, to raise awareness about environmentalism and concrete actions you can take as an individual, and to be a leader in environmental actions for the area, ... to lead by example. Other things you wanted to achieve?
Jennifer, Sarah just joined us, so I'm just going to bring her up to speed.
Great.
We're going through developing an action plan. So right now we're looking at what we think the objectives of this committee will be.
So number 1 and 3, you've just typed are the same, whoever's typing. Mm. So we've got any other things you want to add to the list? Things you want to achieve, sort of higher level, as an advisory committee?
I don't know if that fits, but at the purpose and goals, we said we want to grow Elgin, right? I think I don't know if this is something we can really influence, but what I see from my small community is that house prices and everything is just exploding in our area. And young local families have a hard time to find a home. And I wonder just if the county could maybe also at least advertise that when new developments are done, that it would, because when we grow, we will definitely have an impact on an environmental one, right? So, and it would be mostly a negative one, because if there's a forest reformed and I put a house there, then the impact is there, right? So, but if like bigger building projects, if they could always involve a number of small homes, like starter homes, which still are built to the new environmental standards, I think that would help, but that we keep the prices at least for local people down, because otherwise we will just become like the satellite cities, right, where people just sleep. Then the ones who can afford it will sleep here and work still somewhere else, right? I think that should be a goal, that we really can have people work here and help the businesses, so that the commute doesn't have to be so long.
So if we can distill that down to an objective, Michaela, what would it be?
To make, I think to make the living in the countryside affordable for local people, and thereby by building smaller but energy efficient units in part of the new subdivisions, but to the new environmental standards.
That's getting into the specifics. Yeah.
Okay, so
Jennifer, I think just the objective would be to create affordable housing with less impact on the environment. The specifics might be tiny houses or those, but I think Michaela's giving us ways to do it as well as the objectives.
yes. So I'm going to ask, who is sharing their screen right now?
Megan.
I'm just going to stop, because I'm going to actually share my screen, because I've got them up on my screen, so it might be easier to do. There we go. Can people see my screen?
Yep.
Okay.
Can you enlarge them? Can you enlarge the font slightly for we old blind people? Thank you.
All right, so the last one I want to make sure I caught that: to create affordable housing with less impacts on the environment. And then you're right, some of the actions that would go underneath it would be some of the pieces that Michaela was talking about. To be a leader in, all right, let's see what we got. Environmental. All right, so we got 5 level. Are we missing anything? So these are your broad, because then what we'll do is go for within it. So are we missing anything broad? Those are 5.
Would you mind specifying in point 3, like that we create cleaner streets and parks? Because otherwise we might forget what that meant in a few months from now.
Sorry, which one, Michaela?
Number 3,
Yeah.
that we really want to create clean streets and parks and beachfront and whatever it is.
So there could be an action around that or an idea around that. Yeah, for sure. So let me.
Thank you.
So are we missing anything? So if you think about your work as a committee, the things you're going to focus on are reversing or decreasing impacts on the environment, having the County of Elgin work in a sustainable and green way. So that's the county as an organization. To raise awareness about environmentalism and concrete actions you can take as an, or maybe concrete actions individuals can take. In environmental actions for the area, so to lead by example and to create affordable housing with less impacts on the environment.
I have one.
Yes.
So, I mean, we can play with the wording, but my suggestion would be build ecosystem level resilience through nature-based.
I didn't hear the last part.
Through nature-based solutions. What I mean by that is protecting and building things in our natural ecosystems that we all kind of science understand to make our flora, water, and our streams, everything more resilient against the impact that are heading our way. So that means thinking about flooding, it means thinking about biodiversity, and all of those things can build resilience in ecosystems that help protect human health and protect us against, the dangers of extreme climate change or any dangers that are kind of headed our way. That's what I mean.
Great. So did I capture that, Sarah, to build ecosystem resilience through nature-based solutions? And I put some ideas underneath when we move into the actions, just so we know what it is.
Yes, and ecosystems is one word.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'm sort of on board with Sarah. I would say that, one of the biggest things that we can do as an environmental committee is to a proposal basically to increase and preservation of our natural habitat and local species at risk. Right now, we have 405 species at risk in Ontario, and basically, if we don't start to figure out how we're going to increase our biodiversity, we are going to lose many, many reptiles over the next few years. We're not into a stage to where we can wait anymore. If we don't do something in our counties and be leaders into this, I don't think that that things like the spotted salamander are going to be surviving in our townships.
Great. So does that capture that, Rob, what you said, to increase preservation of our natural habitat and local species at risk?
I think that's a good thing. So to me, that's where it's at for most of the environmental. If you listen to any TED Talks and stuff like that, it's all about storing carbon into our ecosystems and keeping our species at risk, and our biodiversity is what we need to hold on to, not in Africa, but in Southwell Township and in Malahide and in all these small communities. And because of our agricultural background, we're fighting two things. We're fighting a large increase in populations and subdivisions, and we are also trying to divert from small farms to large farms. So the larger farms are more interested in farming, obviously, and not that we want to take anything away from that, but it's a matter of starting to work with the agricultural group to be able to unite and focus on one thing, and that is habitat preservation.
Great.
Holding on to our local biodiversity.
Yeah, that's this one. Yeah.
And I think that would also include restoration of some that we've lost.
Oh, absolutely. We've lost everything. We have 95% of all of our Martian meadows, which are the most ecologically productive areas, that have been diminished here. And there are ways of providing new habitat. And I've done a lot of research on this, and I can bring you up to speed on my research, but I don't want to. I'd like to influence things as best I possible and to use my knowledge as to help out the county.
Great. Thanks, Rob.
I think that a provincial park is in order, because we haven't had a provincial park established in Ontario, and I couldn't even find the last time one was ever produced, or was created. And if they are created, they're in creation with other groups like there's just several other nature groups like David Suzuki Foundation and Nature Canada. They're all in together, but there's not been a provincial park set up for a long period of time.
Interesting. So how are we doing with the objectives? Are we missing any broad ones?
I think that
I would just like to mention maybe to provide support to the lower tier municipalities and the community at large for any environmental projects that they would, and initiatives that they would like to undertake.
I would actively like to seek, like Jeff York just introduced a grant for municipalities of 1.7 million. So if we could get on the bandwagon and try to start to figure out a process, of which, you know, I've implemented some, or I've advised as some, that if we could get a hold of these things here, they're waiting for us right now. And I understand the urgency of Jeff of trying to implement this into our counties, and that's why he's done this. He's done this because he's looking for counties to step up and say, yes, we've got these ideas of habitat rehabilitation, or we've got a great idea to save gasoline, or whatever it might be. There's many different ways we could approach things, but my focus is obviously into the natural aspects of it.
Great. Yeah, Sarah.
I'm just gonna say that I feel like two of these could be folded into one.
Great.
Agree.
In terms of ecosystem resilience, having large intact ecosystems, those are systems that are much more resilient. So Rob's kind of fits in right with that resilience piece.
The 6 and 7?
6 and 7, because again, those intact, large intact habitats and ecosystems and biodiversity are what actually insulates and protects the ecosystems from impacts, right? That's part of what makes them resilient. And in addition, I think we should take out the word building in our natural systems, because we're not going to be building. In fact, we could say protecting and restoring our natural ecosystems,
Absolutely.
as Sally mentioned there. So sorry, that's the second, your point A, to protecting and building in our natural ecosystems. You could put protecting and restoring.
Oh, here.
Add it in there.
Gotcha. So if we make this the overall objective, though, would you not want all of them in it to protect, restore, and build?
But yes, and build ecosystem resilience. Yes, correct.
Yeah. Okay. So what I did is let me know if you'll like this. Rob, is I took, so to protect, restore, and build ecosystem resilience through nature-based solutions, and then I put including natural habitats and local species at risk, just so you name them from the one below. Is that okay?
I
And then
think
I'm
so.
gonna pull that up, y'all.
I'm having a
Maybe
hard time. I
is it-
can't read it because my phone's so dinky, but
Oh,
And you could even add the word to really capture what Rob was saying. You could add the word intact before natural habitats, just to include that idea that we're not talking about, the fragmented habitats. We're talking about more intact habitats.
all right, so we've got those two combined to say to protect, restore, and build ecosystem resilience through nature-based solutions, including intact natural habitats and local species at risk.
That would also be to encourage connectivity of
Nice,
natural habitats.
nice, Sally.
Do you want that stated up in the objective? Habitats.
You could even put intact, connected natural habitats. Or is that watering it down, Sally?
At this point, we're just looking at objectives, and when we talk about this in more detail
Yeah.
in the future,
absolutely.
then right now, we're just looking at the big picture, I
What you
would
want to
say.
do. So do we have them all, the large objectives? Because what we want to do is make sure all of your ideas around what you want to do can fit underneath an objective.
I think that sorry, I've got one more. I could
Yeah.
to keep you guys going forever, but I think that one of the things that as a county that we really need to look at is that we need to convert nonprofit to profit. Because everybody, if you look at all the groups that are actually accumulating things for biodiversity and implementation are nonprofit groups. And these nonprofit groups are getting much older. And I think that we're going to have struggles if we don't convert. We're just relying on the nonprofit groups to do this, but these are essential that we implement a way and a profitable way. In other words, we need to employ ecologists from universities, and we need to set up that sort of thing in order to make that. Sorry,
No,
am I
you're
still
there.
there?
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to convert over is my statement is we need to be able to look at what the nonprofit groups are doing and implement a way of getting this done, because it still needs to be done, and our nonprofit groups are not going to be here within 20 years. You can take a look at any of the nonprofit groups. They're all in trouble, and that sort of sense of community groups to where we were, 30 and 40 and 100 years ago, to where we needed our neighbors to rely on and we worked with them. Now we're a little bit disconnected from that with the society today. So in order that these last remaining nonprofit groups are here, and volunteers like ourselves is diminishing, and I don't think we're going to have that to rely on, and we need to start to plan to put something in place to take its place, because they're vital services that they're providing.
So I actually took your idea, Rob, because I think what you started with, which was convert nonprofit to profit organizations, is an potential action. So I'm trying to get at what the objective is. So I took a crack at it, but give me some feedback. I put increase sustainability of the groups working in the area of environmentalism. So I'm trying to sort of grab, why would you want to convert nonprofit to profit organizations? You talked about sort of sustainability of the groups 20 years from now, but trying to get at what's the objective versus sort of what's the action underneath it.
The
Anyone else
objective
help with that?
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I guess the objective is to be able to, like, I look at places like the Elgin County Stewardship Program, which is a nonprofit program, but they are the ones that are doing most of all the work in Elgin County. So if we lose that nonprofit group, then we've got nobody to reestablish what is the work that they're doing. So I think that we need to focus on that sort of thing. And there's all sorts of data studies that Elgin County, Floral of Elgin County is a nonprofit person that's doing this study and doing all the documentation, but we need to continue on and do studies of these things. So I think that those sort of things are important, that we realize that the nonprofit groups are dissolving, and either we have to revent or I'm not sure. I just wanted to make that as a statement, as a concern, as a person like Ontario Nature. All these groups are nonprofit groups. They're all nonprofit, and I think that we need to develop systems within the county that are going to. We need to have ecologists on staff. We need to promote this green energy and our sustainable living to. And have people paid to do that.
Yeah. Does this capture it, people? What do you think? To increase or support the sustainability of local groups working in the area of environmentalism as an overall objective?
I believe it does. It's something that later on in this committee's work will be discussed in a lot more depth, but at this point, it definitely gives us a place to start.
Yeah, Julie.
I think it might be helpful to define support, because sometimes support means financial, sometimes it means non-financial ways. So it's really discerning from the committee's perspective whether we mean that you're seeking some council financial support for this.
Right. That could come out of the actions too, right? So make a little note. What does support look like? It could be advocacy. Yeah, it could be a lot of things.
Could be a lot of things. It could be.
Yeah.
There's just like I say, that's another. I don't know how we go at about from here, but I have one more too.
I think in general, it would be great if we could encourage more community efforts again. And I think especially the younger generation, they are looking for causes. So I think if we could bring that as advocacy into the schools, that all these environmental groups are looking for volunteers and that they need people, I think there would be a big potential from the schools.
Yeah, that's a potential action. I'm going to make a little note there. So do we have all the high level objectives?
I can add one more.
Yeah, I would actually like us to add also one which is actually helping in general, that we can sort of increase the encourage that the infrastructure continues to grow, like the fast internet, and maybe even that we at some point get some little business parks in the county so that people do not have to commute so far. And that we actually can make sure that more people have the opportunity to work remotely from home if they live in the countryside, right?
Yeah, so I'm wondering, is that an action under one of ours or is it an objective?
Yeah, that's an action.
Raise awareness, concrete action.
Go to the first one, we could put it.
Ah, there. Yeah. Let me grab it. All right. Rob, did you have Kim, do you have your hand up?
Well, number 7 there, where are we? To provide support and encouragement maybe to lower tier municipalities and the community at large for environmental projects and initiatives. they would like to undertake. And by getting at that, when I talk about support, it's not necessarily financial. It could be if somebody wants to do a project, going to the county for a letter of support to send in with the application and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It doesn't need money. It just needs ideas.
It could also fit very much into our official plan concepts as far as support, because we're reviewing the official plan right now.
All right, so put that as a potential example of an action there, Kim, provide letters of support for environmental projects and initiatives. That could be what it looks like. Are we missing any other objectives? Are we starting to go into actions?
Can I go one more?
Yeah.
I think that one of the biggest things about, being environmentally or changing our ways is being able to get local goods more easily to the people that are around here. And I think that if there's a way to promote this, then that's an excellent way of being able to help out and environmentally, because you're using all of your local areas here. So I think that if there's a plan put together of how to get the local goods to the consumers here, then that would be something to be discussed, basically, or an action or hope.
So I'm going to actually put that as an action under reverse or decrease impacts on the environment. Promote local goods and foods and get local goods.
Okay.
All right.
Maybe another action could be to promote local business parks. I've seen it in England, and I've seen it in America, that small villages have still their own high-tech business park. So I think if we would promote it, maybe we would be successful.
So what are they promoting with the business cards, Michaela?
No, so really business and research parks, that not everyone has to sit in London or Toronto, that they can be in a smaller community and have the infrastructure there for them, that they can be willing to relocate.
So I'm going to suggest
business parks. Sorry, business parks.
Cards.
Parks, like a business park. Sorry,
like a T.
No, like P-A-R.
Oh.
The park, like a regular park, just a business park. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Trying to get it over the internet. It's all right. I'm going to suggest we go to actions, because that's where you're going. And then what we'll do is we'll tour back. If an action doesn't fit somewhere, maybe we don't have an objective for it. So what we're going to move to is, this is idea generation. So this is an opportunity to get as many sort of ideas as you want out on the table for each of the objectives. So potential actions or ideas to move the objective forward. I'm going to suggest we don't start. The first one's pretty broad, so I'm wondering if that's actually your overall goal, like a big long-term goal, and then the other ones fit in it. So I'm going to leave that one for now, just park it for a minute, but I'm going to go to the second one, which is County of Elgin to work in a sustainable and green way. So when you think about, so this is about the County of Elgin as a municipality or as a corporation. So what are some of your ideas you have for the county in terms of working in a sustainable and green way? Ideas, actions that could be taken.
One thing we're already working toward is a paperless, so that everything is digital. So I think that's an important one.
Paperless environment, yes. Great, other ideas?
LED lighting throughout all our facilities.
It got downlighting for streets now that's huge. You can see some of it in Toronto, but rather than the floodlights to where they go out, they have shields around them that actually produce the light downward rather than out. So
What are they called, Rob?
It's a downlighting is what it is.
Down lighting for streets.
Yes,
Okay.
right. For all they've got them. If you go into Toronto,
Can I just ask something? Because
The lighting,
Let's go, Michaela, go ahead.
okay. I just would also encourage that we do like cost benefit analysis on things like that. Because very often, if you have a building which is only there for another 50 years and you change now all the lights and in all the 50 years not recuperate the cost, then it's the question if that's something which is environmentally friendly, right?
Yeah, so just thank you for raising that, because what you're doing is you're going to create a list of ideas. It doesn't mean you're just going to go out and do them. County staff will actually be looking at what you just said in terms of cost benefit and that kind of stuff. Julie, go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify that street lights is lower tier, not county.
Ah,
Yeah.
that's what I was trying to say, and that our lower tiers, I know Central Elgin have already done we're doing all the down lights, and we're also doing all LED, we've done all LED lights. So our municipalities are already working on those.
so I'm going to change that one, down lighting for streets. See how I changed it? So your role would be to advocate to lower tier municipalities to implement down lighting for streets because it's not a county responsibility. So that's up another potential action. So what else? County of Elgin, sustainable greenway, other ideas to be explored?
I'd like to see us change the way we approach the ditches, et cetera, along our roads to be mini ecosystems, rather than just, mown,
absolutely.
watered ditches.
But
Does that capture that? Look at ditches along roads as ecosystems. Does that fit there? Could also fit there. Okay, that's okay. What else? Other ideas?
I'd like the county to review the way that we do subdivisions. Now, at this present point, our subdivisions are running at 5% greenland. That's the minimum amount, but in most cases, it would be a ravine or it would be a wood lot that already persists. So I'd like to see the avenues of changing the lots, and like I say, there's many different ways of doing this, but if we could look at and explore severances in different ways, then it might be more advantageous in a green way. So if we could take a subdivision and say, let's go from 5% to 15% or to 50% and develop a way of our new green housing coming to 50% of rehabilitated areas, then we've already done what we need to do, and we have 10 years to decrease our carbon footprint by 10%. So I guess maybe the objective was to be looking at our carbon footprint and ways of reducing that. And there's many ways that we could review the process of our building process and to start to increase natural habitat and also take in the increase of our subdivisions. There's definitely ways of doing that. They've done it in other places.
Yeah, great.
Just one comment. It's Sally, Jennifer. As far as it's the 5% goes to parkland, but at the moment, our bylaws say that you cannot build on natural heritage and natural hazard lands when you build subdivisions. So,
Okay, we're just
those have to
doing
be
ideas.
preserved.
So we're just doing ideas. It could be, because there could be more, some of them could be more complicated than others in terms of implementing. Other ideas, County of Elgin could work in a sustainable and green way. Julie?
Just going back to the one about subdivisions and reducing the carbon footprint. In 2021, the county will be completing a official plan review And that's an opportunity for the committee to participate in the review process, perhaps, and take a close look at some of those actions, because I'm sure there are more opportunities than just subdivisions in Parkland. So,
For sure.
So I put that as an action committee, advisory committee to participate in the 2021 county official plan review. That's a great action for you as a committee.
You got it. Good. And
Other
the
actions?
5% includes parkland, but it doesn't include any increase of natural habitat. So you could be having a swing set, but what does that really do for the environmental footprint that the subdivision just taken place?
Yeah, great. So we got that as an action. Any other actions for the county before? Yep, Julie?
I would just recommend that E and F be combined into one, because the review of subdivisions can't happen without it being part of the official plan review.
So one other thing is that I'd like to, I don't know how it's possible, but the agricultural, and I'd like to see there a possibility of being able to separate or sever farms that have wooded lots versus agricultural purposes, because we could be able to increase and preserve these areas to where right now most of them are getting decreased on an annually basis, on a yearly basis. We're still losing. So if we could have a severance of wood lots versus agricultural fields, one system can go one way and the other system can go the other way, to preserve those areas with buffer zones on the sides of them to increase that area. So it might be a way of an opportunity of a new way of looking at how we've done things in the past.
Yeah, so I've added that as another potential thing to look at when you're looking at the official plan. That would be included in the official plan as well. Other things you see the county?
I'd like to see us go to a sustainable green purchasing policy that we work with all the lower tiers together, or even other counties, so that we get sustainable green purchasing in place.
Okay, so move to sustainable green purchasing policy in collaboration with other municipalities. Does that capture that, Sally?
Yeah. When you say green, do you mean local?
That's part of green, but there are also companies out there that are producing green products, such as cleaning products or various things that we purchase. And the same, even we're already doing this with roads, where we're doing the recycling of asphalt. And that when that contract is laid, then the other municipalities can jump on board as well. But I just think we need to be doing more of this.
I would also maybe that we should encourage and really train people in how to recycle correctly. So whatever we can locally recycle, I think, because I know from friends I have, they don't want to stand in front of their box. Can I put that in? Can I run the box, put it in? I think we really need some more promotion and training in that way for the people. And I think that would also be something what could go in schools and through the schools home.
So I put that under the next one, which is to raise awareness about environmentalism and concrete actions individuals can take. Would be, because this one really is about the county. So thinking about county facilities, county grounds, county operations, versus this one's more about community.
Yeah, I would agree that one's more a municipal, partners initiative with their recycling programs, but the county does have some role in it, but majority of that would be lower tier.
So there are other ideas you have about county, either county operations, county facilities, county grounds. That would be this one, County of Elgin to work in a sustainable green way. Julie.
I think it's worth noting For the official plan review component, I think we have to note that some things may not be possible because of the provincial policy statement. So just linking that to the PPS is important in case this becomes a public document, and we still have to manage expectations about how we have to comply with legislation.
Yeah.
One, one thing we haven't
Point.
talked about.
Was it Rob? Who's talking?
Yes. One thing we haven't talked about is that I've noticed that one thing the Elgin can look at is that the transportation of elderly that are in the rural communities right now. I don't know whether there's something we could do there, but I know it's been listed in the official plan. I think that I remember reading something about it, but I just noticed a lot of my elderly people that shouldn't really be driving are still driving to get to the stores. And I don't know whether there's something we could do there, or just a possibility of promoting more of a transportation for elderlies that's easier for them to use.
I would encourage, not just for the elderly, but any form of public transportation is going to be important, that we should be working on that.
Correct, like Shedden to St. Thomas, or I don't know, but.
Yeah. So I put that under the first one, explore a rural transportation program. Does that capture that one?
Sounds good.
Yes.
Nice. I just in the interest of time, I'm going to move you to the raise awareness one objective. So raise awareness about environmentalism and concrete actions individuals can take. So you had encourage and train people about how to recycle.
Correct.
Did you want to say something?
I also wanted to mention, it just came to my mind, the landfills we have. Like, I just know the one next to Highway 401 when you drive from Dutton to London. If we cannot do something about that, they are less of a nuisance, because almost any time of the year you drive by, it's pretty bad smell. And I think things like that would probably also definitely help in our environment in general, and the people who live around there.
So what's the action, Michaela?
Just encourage these companies to explore better ways to mitigate the smell they have. I don't know, maybe when they put new parts in, because so in Europe there are many landfills you don't know at all that there is one, because there's just no smell, right? So something seems to go wrong there.
Okay, so I put encourage companies to mitigate the odor of landfills.
Odor and the gases they produce, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to go there. That's a provincial and Ministry of Environment issue that every day.
I think that they're our biggest advocates right now to promote habitat rehabilitation, because of all the areas that they have around them. And like, it's not the greatest farmland, and it's flooded out for years. So to me, they've been putting into the community very good. They do try to run a very good dump. I live right beside it, so I know where it's at. And to me, it's more joining forces and helping them out, and then hopefully getting something back.
Sure.
So did that go into here, promote habitat preservation with landfill operators?
I've got it out there already. It's already been promoted to Jeff Urick at this stage. So, and he has been talking to them, but how far it's gone. But I think that if we can get on board with companies like that, absolutely. I think that there's many ways of going at things, but so far I think that Green Lane's done a pretty decent job of helping out the community and It's not that we couldn't ask them for more, try to get as much as we can, but from what I've seen, I've been at the meetings, and I see them as being more of a, a help in the situation than a hindrance at this stage of the game. So
Great.
butterflies don't care how stinky it is.
Potential actions to explore around raising awareness about environmentalism and concrete actions individuals can take. So we've got encourage and train people about how to recycle. Is there something about, I mean, Michaela, that's where you were talking about like people dumping their garbage. Like, is there something about like a marketing campaign around it? Like, what's the action? Thoughts on that? Michaela, are you talking to us because you're on mute?
Sorry, thank you. I don't, if you want the slogan, you could just say something like, don't trash your environment or something like that. I saw it at Port Glasgow. They had a little sign there. And I think signs are great, but I think to go directly to the people is probably even more effective. They said something like, put your butt on the beach, but not just your butt from your cigarettes, right? Stuff like that. And I think we can have an impact there, because I think people just sometimes are just not thinking what they're doing, right?
Yeah. So some kind of marketing or awareness raising campaign.
Yeah, just really talking to people, to schools, to non-profit groups, that they could maybe help us bring the word out. Because I don't know how much budget there is for things like that, but I think if we involve a lot of non-profits and everything, and schools, I think that could go a far way.
Yeah. So what about this next one? To be a leader in environmental actions for the area, to lead by example.
I have a couple for that one, Jennifer. And one is we're already we're applying to put in electric charging stations here. And I know some of our lower municipalities, at least mine, is moving toward trying some electric vehicles as well. We have electric charging stations already in Central Elgin. That's one. And the other one that I was looking at was we have a naturalized area to the south of the county building that has been put in now between the Heritage Center and the Provincial Offences Court. I'd like to see us do some naturalized things to the north of the building. It's just a large grassed area that I think we could do something more naturalized out there, such as a meadow or such.
North of which building? I want to make sure I got it.
The county building.
It goes along with roadside management.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got electric charging stations, electric vehicles, and naturalized spaces north of the county building. Anything else around being a leader?
The county doesn't own any vehicles, so it's more promoting electric charging stations for people driving electric vehicles. So it's providing those as an example, or promote the use of electric vehicles.
Could you not, though, put in electric charging stations as a county?
Proposing to do so. We have applied for a grant. Central Elgin and the county are working together to get 20 new electric charging stations put in.
Where would they be put in? Into the grocery stores or?
No, these are workstations for workers. Central Elgin have already put them in Port Stanley at tourist areas, in Belmont at arenas, etc. We've already been doing that, but in conjunction with the Earth Corporation. But this is they have applied for a grant to put them here at the county building at our workstations, et cetera, and arenas for, and nursing homes, et cetera, for, anyway, county, the use of county employees, et cetera.
Yeah. So you need a new green fleet.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, I've seen it. I have a vehicle. I have an electric vehicle here, but as for being able to go out and charging stations, and like the PUC has one over here, they have one vehicle right now. I think the PUC has, and I hardly ever see a vehicle charging there. So I guess they got to be put to where they're going to be, where the most use is. And then if you're driving an electric vehicle to work, you know, if it's charged at work, I guess you could take it home and then come back. But I guess that depends on the fleet.
Yeah.
I'd say they're a good idea.
What about create affordable housing with less impacts on the environment? Let me tell you, I'm wondering if that fits under, as an action under reverse or decrease impacts on the environment.
I would agree. I was struggling with that one as well. I think a lot of that has to do with what we put in our official plans at the county level, but also at the lower tier or municipal partners level as well.
They're the only ones that can.
Are people okay with that if I move it up to this big one? We're going to come back and look at that big one in a minute when we get to the end of this list. So we got protect, restore, and build ecosystem resilience through nature-based solutions, including intact, connected natural habitats and local species at risk. So far, we've got 2 potential ideas there. Advocate for a provincial park, promote habitat preservation with local operators. What else? What are the other actions or ideas for that objective? Sarah, you have to have some. You're on mute, though. You're still on mute. There we go.
So I'm not sure about the phrasing, but some kind of partnership with an agency or to develop our own program to encourage use of native plants and other small plants that collectively have a large impact, such as rain gardens. So rain gardens and native plants would be kind of the essence there, and how we have programs.
So let me make sure I got what you said. Develop a program to encourage use of native plants and rain gardens.
Rain gardens.
Rain gardens? Like that?
Yes.
Rain?
Yep.
Rain? Okay.
Rain gardens.
Great. Other ideas around our ecosystem resilience?
We might want to help promote there are new systems of stormwater management for built up areas better than just the stormwater ponds. There are other marsh-like areas and things that they're using more of now. We still seem to be doing just stormwater ponds around here.
Sure.
Just an education thing for our local municipalities.
So this is for local municipal partners. Other things around your ecosystem resilience, your habitats, local species?
There is about 750 acres out of 75,000 that are significant PSWs, provincially significant wildlife. And there's also local significant areas or wetlands as well. So the PSW is provincially significant wetland. Now we have 75 7,500 acres of these areas, and these would be the areas to start to go at to promote and enlarge and at least advise these people of these areas, because there has not been done lately, and a lot of these areas are getting logged, which they're not supposed to be, and there's other issues with them too. But I would say to enhance and promote and just advise these landowners that that they do have a significant wild or provincially significant wildlife, because many of them do not even know.
So enhance and promote provincially significant wetlands?
Yes, we need
To landowners? It's like it's to, who are you doing that to? Okay.
To the landowners themselves, because they don't know.
Okay.
Most of these people, when they purchase a piece of property, they don't know, and then the logging companies will go in there, and apparently there's a clause in there that it's for the better of the area that they get logged. But anyway, they end up managing to do it, and it's not supposed to happen, but it's happening.
Okay.
So I guess it's just to advise them, let them know that what they've got there, and to promote, to enlarge these areas, because these are the areas that we need to go at. These are the most viable systems that we have in our counties. So we need to look at these and hopefully try to make at least awareness to them and promote some sort of incentives to these people to expand these areas rather than to decrease them.
Jennifer, I would suggest that there's a couple of things here. We already have our conservation authorities within the county. A lot of these things we're talking about are there in their purview.
Jurisdiction.
Yeah, and
Yes.
maybe it's a thing where we should be working closer with our conservation authorities to help them with, obviously they're under a lot of stress right now with financial implications that have been reduced by the province. So I think there's a lot of education here to be done. But also advocate for provincial park. I think maybe that should be conservation areas, because that realistically another provincial park probably won't happen because of the finances at the provincial level. But conservation authorities have a lot more leeway in that, in creating conservation areas if they're donated to them.
Yeah. Yep.
Left provincial park in there.
With conservation authorities. Yes, Julie?
Just a note that there is some work on a natural heritage system study taking place in Elgin that has been reviewed by the Rural Initiatives Committee, and there's another report coming to council, but there could be an opportunity to link D and some of the other initiatives to the review of the Natural Heritage System Study, which is a background document to inform the official plan amendments.
So can we say review the Natural Heritage System Study and identify potential actions? That's a pretty concrete action for you as a group.
We haven't got the natural heritage system study approved through council yet. I think that's going to be very important that we get that through county council first.
Yes.
And this is getting done now?
Yeah, so what you would do is if you decide you want to do it, you could put it on your work plan for when it's actually council approved.
It's actually been done. We hired the Upper Thames Conservation Authority to do the work. It was all done. It's been prepared. It just hasn't been officially adopted by council to, it's supposed to be part of our official plan review.
So that was the Lower Thames?
Upper Thames did the research and mapped all the natural heritage areas in Elgin County and all the wetlands, et cetera. It's just getting it through county council is the point at the moment.
Any other potential actions or ideas around your ecosystem resilience?
I'm wondering whether they could promote the increase in the amount of forest cover throughout the county. Elgin's at about, I think, 15%, and yet you go down to Norfolk and they're at 25 to 30.
And west, we're at 4.5%.
Great. So looking at forest cover.
And I would included in the forest cover is when they go in to do the logging, like they're removing the larger trees now. All the veneered trees that were left 30 and 40 years ago as seed trees are getting removed. And that's the habitat for the bats and other ecosystems that fall along with those large mature trees. So we're losing those ones in the forest now. Basically, we've got skeletons, and we also just lost 12% due to the emerald ash borer. So 12% of our forests are completely gone.
Yeah, so a link between forest and your species for sure, right? In terms of providing habitats for
Like
them.
they could be putting up bat boxes inside these things. We could have raptor nest on every hydro pole, which is, you know, they would go correspond. There's all sorts of poles right now that the club has got that they do. You know, there's the small kessels that are. They're in these boxes, so there's a way of increasing habitats with bird feeders around parks. There's like all our parks here have not got any ecosystems there. What's wrong with a bird feeder that the county actually takes on and fills up once a week or once every 2 weeks? And Fingal and Almer, and you know, there could be done.
So I'm actually going to capture yours as an action, Rob, which is identify ways to increase habitats for local species, because you gave a number of different examples of ways that you could actually do that.
Yeah.
Jennifer, in G, where you have promote the increase of the amount of forest cover throughout the county, I would add to that and educate or somehow explain the significance, the importance of large seed trees being left in logging practices.
Large
seed trees.
Seed like that?
Yes. What they do is that's how the forests rejuvenate themselves. And if you don't leave good seed trees, you will have very poor trees that rejuvenate.
Yeah. Great.
And there's so many diseases happening now. You've got oak wilt, you've got the beech fungus, is just many different things, which brings us to the cause of the invasive species too, that we haven't really talked about that could be incorporated into what we're talking about.
Say that last piece again, Rob.
Well, we've got, there's the invasive species we didn't discuss about trying to tackle that. Now, I know that there's some counties are definitely going at it, but I'm starting to think it's a real wash right now to try to take care of Phragmites and silvergrass. Like when you go into Port Stanley, you're going to see a crop of silvergrass there that one person planted in his yard. You're going to see how many 8 places it's already moved to, and Phragmites is prolific throughout the whole county. I don't know whether it's possible to tackle it or not, but the part that gets me is that we have so very many small wetlands left that as soon as these open-aired wetlands, which is a marsh or a meadow, that as soon as these things get into it, they're totally toasting it. So if we've got so little, and then all of a sudden they're getting in there. So I don't know whether it's a way of, like, I've tackled a lot of them myself, but there are many here that are possible that we could, you know, there's possibilities, but we didn't discuss that. And I don't know whether that could be included into something as to a view of how we're all going to go at it to start to get it. But as soon as I went up the Highway 15 up to Peterborough, it's like, it's prolific up north already too. So I don't even know whether it's possible, but in our area, it is controlled.
So is it something, yeah, go ahead, Julie.
2 key things worth noting here. One, the county is working closely with the lower tiers on Phragmites program. So that was rolled out in 2020. So we could bring back some additional information, and perhaps this committee could review that program. Additionally, we do have a weed inspector, and that's a purchase for service that arrangement that we have with Kettle Creek Conservation Authority. So it's perhaps worth taking a closer look at the programs put in place by the weed inspector to support this initiative.
All right, so let me make that one's pretty concrete as well. So review the programs put in place by the weed inspector. How do you spell Phragmites? Phragmites.
It's with a PH, I know that.
Ha! Well, I didn't even start it right. Phragmites. Like that? Phragmites?
Yes.
No, I'll look it up when I'm done. Okay.
Jennifer, one thing we might encourage in this when you're looking at the weed inspector is that we discourage the use of sprays on county property except for dangerous, like poison ivy, giant hemlock, etc., except for dangerous weeds.
So is that something? Would that be this part of that? Or is that a separate thing that you want to do? Discourage the use of sprays?
I think you got to use them in certain situations. I don't think there's a way of discouraging. You don't want to use them, but again, it's a tough question. I don't know how to explain it. There's no other way at this time to be able to control it. So we're going to lose our diversity and not give it a chance if we continue to let things like this happen. But
yeah,
Jill, I think perhaps just broadening that, and instead of initially saying discourage the use of sprays, it would be evaluate the initiatives utilizing spray across the county, and make a recommendation following some more information gathering.
Yeah.
Because we talked about protecting birds and even creating habitats for them and everything, I think there should also be a caution for additional wind turbines, because we know how detrimental they are for the environment, and at least to allow the municipalities to decide by themselves what they want to do or not want to do.
So what's the action around wind turbines?
Also, I think it should be discouraged, because it's the environmental impact is enormous, and the cost benefit is also not there, because they need to run 15 to 20 years before they pay for the concrete and everything what produced to build them, right? So it's just might look nice on paper, but it's not anything that you can build high-tech economy or any economy really on it.
Julie.
So wind turbines would be a local concern, and so we'd have to be clear about an advocacy role, perhaps, or that's a tough one for the committee to take a position on.
I agree.
I think so too.
I agree.
I think you're going to get political on that one.
Yeah.
Yep.
The reason I brought it up is because when many of these were built, like bald eagles nests were taken down, and nobody else would ever be allowed to do that, right? And for these wind turbine companies, they took down bald eagles nests, and I think there we should really stand against as a county, as well as a municipality, because Dutton was very much pressured into having them, though we didn't want them, right? And other municipalities who wanted them, they did not get them, right? And so I just think, but if we make sure that it's in the hand of the municipality, I think that is good too. Then we don't need to take a stand. But if that would not be the case, I think we would need to take a stand.
Okay. I'm going to suggest, just based on time, we try to hit these last two, and then we'll take a tour back up. So you've got another objective, which is to provide support and encouragement to the lower tier municipalities and the community at large for environmental practices and initiatives they would like to undertake. So I think it was Kim who suggested we could provide letters of support for environmental purposes and initiatives. Are there other specific actions you could take around providing support and encouragement for environmental projects and initiatives that others will be undertaking?
Just one that I would suggest, something we've done recently is we're building a new fire hall that's zero carbon, zero energy. So maybe educating or providing information about zero carbon, zero energy buildings. There is a green energy fund that helped pay for that.
Great. Does that capture that one, Sally? Educate and provide information about zero carbon energy buildings? Who would you do that to? Is that
You could add and funding available and funding sources.
anything else for providing support and encouragement to others undertaking projects or initiatives?
I think that the St. Thomas Elevated Park would be a possibility there of continuing the trail to the Elgin hiking trail. It's not far off right now. It's 4 kilometers, and I see that trail as being an economic boom because there's 2 ways of getting people out in the areas, and one would be to bring in horse riding at that location to ride them down that track line. They've got 4 kilometers right now, and it needs a few more kilometers to get out to the trail there. But you could also have dog sled rides too. So there's avenues of being able to get people out into that area there as to getting them outdoors and that connection. So I guess it would be promoting that aspect of it.
Does this capture, I'm assuming that's a City of St. Thomas jurisdiction, is that correct?
But it goes
No, the trail isn't.
correct.
Who owns the trail?
The trail he's talking about would go through Southold.
Right now, it's in private hands.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. So it'd be advocate to the City of St. Thomas and Southold.
Yeah, and then we have our rail line that just has been diminished, and it's accessible to purchase too, but which is going into where Norfolk has done their trail system through the old railroad bed. Well, we have that system right here as well.
So rail line bed. Is that again another advocate to the lower tier municipalities?
I'm not sure. Right now, it's my understanding it's being parceled out to the local landowners. So I'm not even sure it's an option.
Well, that land that has been offered already, but there's still a substantial part of it, and the landowners that have purchased it, I think would still be all right to promoting that through. But again, who knows? It's just these are ideas. We're brainstorming. I will say that one of the most unique features in Elgin County is sitting on that railroad bed, and there is nothing like it in Southern Ontario. So you got something that is very, very special here, but not too many people know of it, and it is there.
So I put in for general, which is explore the use of rail lane beds as a trail system. These are very broad, doesn't sort of say what you're going to do with it, but it's sort of like you might look at it as a potential.
Absolutely, yep.
Let's go to the last one for a minute.
Excuse me, Jennifer. Can I just suggest under that number 6 that you develop a program for the schools to promote the environmental projects that are going on in the area?
Well, the local regional parks and recreational that we have here, they don't even get there. Like a field trip to Almer or to Fingal, or they're just not there.
Oh, they go to Jaffa all the time.
Yeah, you do go to Jaffa, that's correct.
To develop a program for schools to promote the environmental projects underway in the area. Great, so sort of awareness piece around that. Yeah, Julie?
Instead of going ahead and developing a program, I'd recommend to the committee that this piece is about partnering with local school boards to see if there are opportunities to promote environmental projects and work underway in the area.
Really good.
Or do you like my typing? To promote.
We already have in our schools, in the Thames Valley schools, we had last year 5 eco classes, grade 7 and 8 student classes, that their whole program was on the environment. Everything they did, whether it was math or English or whatever, was all to do with environment, and they did a lot of environmental projects. But several of the schools have gotten rid of them this year, and Port Stanley or Kettle Creek Public School has 2 of them now, and they're one of the few left.
Interesting. All right, let's flip to the last one here and see what actions you have, potential ideas here. So this one is to increase or to support the sustainability of local groups working in the area of environmentalism. So that's the key question here, is your actions, or what does support look like? So we had, I think it was Michaela talked about encouraging community efforts, so matching up volunteers to groups, using young people or youth in schools who may be looking for volunteer opportunities could be one way to do it. That's another way, or action.
We might promote groups like Alice, which is an alternative land use group to our local people. They do some great projects.
What's like that?
Alice ALUS, alternative land use.
Alternative land use.
Carolinian Canada.
Yeah.
All right, who are we going to promote them to? Promote groups like Alice to
Farmers, local farmers.
Yeah.
It's a way of taking poor farmland and turning it into environmentally significant areas.
That's cool.
And they help support them and they pay them.
Yeah, there are somewhat government funded too, but they're good. They're a very good group.
What else? Other ways you can support or increase the sustainability of your local groups working in the area of environmentalism?
I don't know whether this is the same thing, but I know that there's a lot of new items that are coming out that are like environmentally friendly for households. And I don't know whether this is in the same sort of realm, but there's smart receptacles, and there's drying racks that you have so you don't have to use your dryer anymore, that sort of pulled out to you. And I think that those types of items need to be sort of identified and helped out or promoted into our local papers that are in trouble as well.
Does that go up where? Is it about raising awareness and concrete actions?
I think so. I think that would be it. Like,
Yeah.
We're going to get into the blue boxes shortly, so I guess that would be a household items. There's lots and lots of new household items that are on the market as we speak right now that are coming to life. So
yeah.
But it's to get them aware that to the general public in our area. So,
yeah.
If somebody can understand how a Bluetooth receptacle works, you plug it in, you start your heater up in the morning in your kitchen at 9 o'clock, and it shuts off at 10 automatically. So you don't have to control your whole house; you control one room. So there's things like that are they're abundant right now. They're coming to life. It's a lot of new things and great things that are going to happen shortly.
Yeah, great. Anything else around supporting sustainability of local groups? Okay, I'm going to take you back. You've got a very long list of ideas, which is good. So we've got 7 overall sort of objectives that you're working towards. You've got actions underneath each of them. I'm going to, we're going to do a tour, and then I'm going to ask you, how do we want to do this? We want to sort of get a priority list. So what do you want to start with? So staff get an idea of
Could I
what.
just add
Yeah.
one thing to decrease the impact on the environment? I think it's really great that there are already some roundabouts in Elgin County, but I think we should encourage the building of roundabouts, especially in the rural places where if there's a light, then you have to idle with your car even if nothing is coming, right? So.
Great. So I'm going to take you through a very quick little tour. As I'm going through these all, maybe as I go through them, let me know if there's some you think you could start with, that you'd like staff to help you start with in terms of ideas. So let's start with reverse the impacts on the environment. So you've got encourage the growth of infrastructure, promote local goods and foods, promote communities using business parks, explore a rural transportation program, encourage companies to mitigate the odor of landfills, create affordable housing with less impacts on the environment, encourage the building of roundabouts. Any on that list, we say starting, we might start with one of those to look at it. This doesn't mean you're going to do it, but you would like sort of explore it. If there's not one that jumps out right away, that's okay, because we still have 6 other objectives. What about County of Elgin? So this is focusing on the county as a corporation. You've got move to paperless environment, implement LED lighting, advocate to lower tiers about downlighting, look at ditches, participate in the 2021 county official plan review, move to a sustainable green purchasing policy. That list, say, would be a good starting action for you as a group to look at.
I would take the roadside management, but.
That D, that one? Look at ditches along roads as ecosystems.
Sure.
I personally think the official plan review give us a lot of bang for our buck.
Sorry, which one? I missed that.
The official plan review.
Yeah. What's the timing on that one, Julie?
So it will commence early in 2021.
Right.
So some background work is taking place now, but we expect to really hit the ground running in 2021. And as far as the ditches along roads as ecosystems is concerned, there is a link here to staff's action plan, which supports council's strategic plan. So some work in this area has already been done. So in some of these areas that we're identifying as actions for the committee, it's a matter of bringing forward some reports and educating the committee about those specifically and what is already in place and maybe building upon it.
So that's a good point. So let me take a step back for a minute. Would it be easier if we provide this list of objectives and potential ideas to staff, and then at your next meeting, they come back with a report to say, here's things already undergoing in this area. This is when we can report back to you about it, or this is when we think it might fit into timing. So they actually do a little bit of mapping for you right now in terms of what's underway and sort of how you can feed into that process and what it might look like. Would that be helpful as sort of a next step?
I think so.
Yeah, I was just gonna, I'm sorry, I had to slip out there for a second. We have to understand that we're still under COVID and staff time is very limited. We have to be very specific on where we want to start and the expectations. We have to understand that the staff has to be able to carry out what our expectations are as well.
Absolutely.
Be very focused.
Yeah, so I think my suggestion would be you've got a really good start at some ideas. You've got 7 really clear objectives around what you want to focus on as a committee, which is great. You've got ideas underneath each of them in terms of the work and more concrete kind of work that you want to do. So if we hand that over to staff and ask them to come back with a report at your next meeting to talk about sort of how it might align with current work and or sort of a timeline around it, that then you can begin to move forward with it. But to me, it looks like even with just the official plan, you're going to have a lot of work to do as a group in terms of moving stuff forward. Does that sound okay as a next step in terms of moving your action plan forward?
Jennifer, I was just going to ask on number 5, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
Can you put that back up?
I will. Let me just find it. Yep.
Okay, there was, I'm not sure whether it was in that one or not. It was something about the weed inspector.
Yes, right here. Review programs put in place by the weed inspector.
Yeah. Those programs, from my understanding, they come from the county council. I don't think they're responsible, or the weed inspector doesn't put the programs in place. So
No, he doesn't. I think you're correct.
Yeah, that's okay, because what it could be is, I mean, one of your roles as an advisory committee is to provide advice to council, right? So you could provide advice to council around the weed inspector program.
okay.
There's other things you think that position should be doing? Yeah. So again, it's sort of going back to what's your role in each of those actions and making sure it's clear versus you telling the weed inspector what you want them to do. So do you have another meeting booked, or is that something you need to do as a group?
No, we haven't yet, as of yet. We have a couple more items, then set a plan date. But definitely, it's a good first step, and there's a lot of stuff there to digest and get our heads wrapped around too. So
For sure, yeah. I think you've got, as I said, I think you've got some pretty clear objectives and ideas to move forward. So your work is cut out for you. Great work today in terms of identifying some stuff, and I'll look forward to seeing some of the things that you actually do off your list as a committee. So I'll send my notes to Catherine. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. Perfect. All right. Thank you all.
okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Jennifer.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jennifer. You did an awesome job.
Okay, we're quickly running out of time here. We have 2 more items of correspondence for just a brief discussion. I guess at this point, we'll have to bring it back to our next meeting. I do have commitments shortly after lunch, so we can't extend the meeting too much, or I'm going to be in trouble.
And the long sign can wait because it's not going to be done till the spring anyway.
Yeah. So first correspondence is from the County of Elgin. So at our last county meeting, I think most of you know, in our build-up areas, speeding is becoming more and more of an issue. People not respecting the speed limits within our communities, and there's a fairly lengthy discussion from county councilors about what initiatives we could look at to help reduce the problem. OPP can't be everywhere, and we can't afford to pay for OPP to be everywhere. So one of the ideas came forward was lawn signs, and I think most of you've probably seen a few of them popping up. CAA is promoting it. A few municipalities are promoting it. Just it was decided to refer it back to this committee for further discussion on the pros and cons of it. I don't expect a decision today because this won't be something that will happen until the spring if it does happen anyway. So just I guess initial comments. I think we'll probably just table it for the next meeting since we're right down to the wire on time right now. Any comments from anybody?
I think the reason it was referred to us was they were worried that these signs would only be used for a short time and then create more plastic in landfills, et cetera. That was the concern expressed at county council by one of our councillors. So that's why it was referred to this committee. So that's something to think about.
Dave, you're muted. Dave, you're muted. You're on mute.
Okay, now you can hear me. Yeah, I don't think the county should be involved in the lawn sign business. When they initially went up, people paid attention to them, but the more and more go up, you just sort of ignore them. And so I agree with the comment made at county council that after a little while, they become landfill, and I just don't think it's necessary for the county to be involved. Let the CAA print them out, and those who want them can have them, but not from the county.
I think the only thing that's going to stop people speeding is police officers.
Yeah.
Being on view there. All those signs that show your speed as you're going through a town, that type of thing.
I think that would be great. The last thing you said was a sign which shows you how fast you're going and how fast you actually should go.
Yeah.
There are for sure mobile units which can then put on different places that you don't have it all. Because I agree, and you see a sign all the time again, then sometimes you ignore it, right? So if they move around,
I think the
You know, if you see police officers, you automatically look at your speedometer.
I would just like to mention whether there's a opportunity to use the existing infrastructure that's already in place, like the speed limit signs, and just put a small thing, slow down on the post out of metal or whatever, to instead of having lawn signs all over the place. I don't agree with that approach. So
Seeing a bit of a common theme here. So I guess, would somebody like to put a motion forward to suggest not using the lawn signs?
So moved, Grant.
So Ward Manel moves, I need a seconder for that.
I'll second it.
Michaela had her hand up first. Okay, any further discussion? And seeing none, so I'll ask Catherine to call a vote. Sorry.
Warden Mennel,
Yes.
Councillor Martin,
Yes.
Michaela Lentz,
yes.
Ray Price,
Yes?
Rob Brom,
Yes.
Kim Smale,
yes.
Sarah Emmons. So, I lost her.
Gone.
Councillor Jones,
Yes.
7-0, the motion is carried.
Okay, thank you. And I'll send that letter back to County Council.
Yes.
Okay, our next correspondence is the Ontario Blue Box Program, the new news release that Mr. Yerrick just put out last week. And I guess I haven't actually read it, but the recyclables have been increased. Have anything to highlight there? I actually have read the release. I just heard about it, so I really don't know what has been added to it. So at this point.
Just a comment, Grant, this has been ongoing for several years to put it back on the manufacturers to fund the blue box. And certainly this will encourage manufacturers not to have single-use plastics, et cetera, that if they're involved with recycling of it. So I think it's a good program and take the pressure off the lower tier municipalities.
FYI.
Okay, I guess it was just added for an FYI for us today. Okay, I guess that's towards the end of our program for today. We need to set the date for our next meeting. Assume everybody wants to tackle this again in December, early December. Just lost Sarah, but does Tuesday work for everybody for whatever that would be? So how about Wednesday, first Wednesday?
Morning's okay.
Wednesday's good for me.
Sure.
Yep.
10 o'clock.
That's good.
Yep.
Okay. All right, we'll set it for that.
What's the date for that, Grant?
December 2nd.
2nd, okay.
Will you be so kind and send us the document which
Yes, we
Jennifer
will.
wrote?
Yes, we will.
Wonderful, thank you.
All right, if there's nothing else, need a motion to adjourn.
All right. Thanks so much, Grant. And
Okay.
everybody.
Grant.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
I'll move, we adjourn.
I need a seconder to adjourn.
They're all gonna disappear.
Bale, all in favor?
Aye.
Warden,
We have to call the vote.
Warden Mennel,
Yes.
Counselor Martin,
Yes.
Michaela Lentz,
Yes.
Ray Price,
Yes.
Rob Brom,
Yes.
Kim Smale,
Yes.
Counselor Jones.
Yes.
7-0, the motion is carried.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Take care.
Have a great week, month.